Before I start my speech, my pronouns are she, her. I will starting. I will be starting in 3, 2, 1. We can see that families have a strong emotional bond where you are expected to spend your life taking care of your families, giving the most amount of affection towards them, especially your elderly who are already in the stage of age where they need more care, for example, more attention, and etc. But panel, we see that the biggest problem here is that the stigmatization of outsourcing this elder care is only a thing that dictates the metrics of love that you give towards your parents. We're now individuals who are even incapable, for example, to spend their most time with their families because with the elderly because they have hustles in life, for example, or then people who also are having these certain struggles are now condemned into a certain metrics that they do not love their parents anymore. They're not giving the full responsibility into it. We will prove to you why then this certain standard or metrics that is created by this stigmatization not only harm the children into thinking that they are a bad children, they are not giving their best towards giving caring and responsibilities towards their parents, but also how these parents will feel condemned, and it only harms their mental being when the stigmatization is applied. 2 points of framings coming from Team Pop. First of all, how does the stigmatization look like, right? Let's characterize then in these Asian societies where the values about family is very strong, right? About this is like having responsibilities towards your parents, your elderly, whether in the old age, when your parents are in the old age, for example, or your grandparents, you are accepted to contribute back towards them because your parents have already raised you your whole life, and etc. Right? We say that this is what has happened, and it is rooted in these Asian societies panels, where therefore there is many narratives that are kind of like condemning these certain children, for example, e.g., like you are abandoning your parents if you put them in elder care, for example, or you are not doing your real responsibilities as a child. You do not love them if you are hiring a nurse for them to take care of them when they're older, and etc. We will prove to you why is the stigmatization is not true, and why is it not even within the interest of the parents, and it only harms their perceptions about their children, right? But then second of all, how does outsourcing elder care will look on both sides, right? We say that as you are going to hire nurses, for example, you're going to have shared responsibilities with your other family members to take care of your parents, for example, or even in the worst case, you're going to put them in elderly care and etc. However, pals, we say that this doesn't explicitly mean that you do not care for your parents anymore, right? We say we'll prove to you why affection, your responsibility is diverse and personalized. E.g., even if you hire a nurse, it is a way as a form for you to still care for your parents when you have a lot of responsibilities or another family to take care of. We'll prove to you why then this is important. Two things to prove here. First of all, why within the context of Asian societies the stigmatization is unjust, and two, how it only creates a harmful relationship between your elderly and your children at the end of the day, right? Moving on to my first argument, why the stigmatization perpetuates a generalized metric of how you're responsible towards your certain elderly, right? Let's characterize what is the form of responsibility on our side. What does it mean when it can be diverse? We say that some can show it in a form of giving quality time towards your elder people, where you spend time to listen to their stories about their past, about their life in the past, for example. Or some also are as a form of responsibility, they are paying for their needs, for example. They're making sure that another people is taking care of them because they have other responsibilities, e.g., still hustling in their work life, and etc. We say that this is when the stigmatization is harmful, and it comes here to ruin this certain to generalize this certain measures of responsibility. How does it look like? We say that now when there is a stigmatization, this creates a perception whatever your status is, whatever struggles you're handling, you still have the responsibility in the form of putting your whole attention towards this elder care, right? Where now you have to do it all by yourself and not help you with your responsibilities with a certain nurse, for example, or elderly care, and etc. Therefore, 2 points here. Why is it harmful? A, it comes from people who have the capacity to do it, panels. Realize that this stigmatization comes from people who have the privilege, the time and energy to spend your days listening to these elderly in telling your stories, for example, or to be able to cater towards, for example, these parents who need a bigger amount of affection than people your age, for example, right? Or people who also have these good relationships with the elderly to be able to invest all their time and energy towards this, right? Therefore, we say when it becomes a stigmatization, when people who have many hustles or struggles to even like cater towards the elderly and make it their main responsibility are now condemned panels. We say that this is not justified, because realize how it is that it's not should be your responsibility or love towards your parent should not be dictated by the society, especially in the Asian societies where this is perpetuated by like gossip culture, where the moment that you hire a nurse, you're now condemned by people around you that you are not a good child, where they overlook your other forms of contribution towards your parents, e.g. you're telling them affections every day, for example, you're paying for their expenses, and etc. We say that it's also a form of responsibility. You cannot condemn that. But then B, we say that it also creates a metric of what is real love towards your parents in the relationship of parents and children, right? We say that at the end of the day, this is harmful because it only perpetuates a self-blaming toward their children, right? We say that this is the most crucial thing that is happening, because especially when it's perpetuated in these Asian societies with the rooted value that family is your main responsibility, this is when these children feel as if that they have not been contributing enough, for example, right? Or how they're always being judged by people around them that can lead to them only self-blaming themselves, that they are not a good child, for example, even if this is the best way that they can do to give their care or affection towards their parents, for example. We say that even if they say that this is not a form of taking care of your parents, we say that no, panels. We say that in the very worst case, this would mean that that these children would leave their parents at the end of the day. They would not even take responsibility. But on our side, we at the very least we give the agency to other people to do this, but it's a form of caring towards them, because we do not just entirely neglect them and etc. But then second argument, then how does only perpetuate a harmful communication and relationship between your parents and children, right? First layer, then how do parents react to the stigmatization, right? We say that in the principally panels, parents actually do not have the expectation for your children to be a form of investment panels. Realize that this is a crucial principle here, because their parents raise their children because of out of a pure genuine love, right? Where they do never thought of their children has to be responsible with taking care of them in the future. But because of the stigmatization, they have now the perception that their children doesn't love them, where the children is not being responsible towards them. We say that this harms their mental state panels, because the stigmatization is revolving, it's lingering with the gossips of of other people in this Asian society panels, where now where now panels the parents who are in the most vulnerable state are now feeling these certain burdens, or they are feeling these certain heartbreaks that come from the stigmatization around them panels, right? The main interest for them to genuinely love their children, when even if they are not giving their main attention or main care, which is okay, because parents in the first place understand how children have certain situations or hustles that they cannot spend all their time or agency towards this, are now being tackled down by these certain stigmatization panels. Therefore, the second layer, what's the manifestation of this towards the communication of their children, right? We say that now it is harmful when the stigmatization is going into their brain, which only limits them into feeling or assuming that these children do not love them anymore, or are not responsible for them, or just neglecting them. Therefore, we say this is bad for the communication, because now they're not likely to find out what the children even felt in the first place in putting them in this elder home, or are hiring nurses, right? They already have this certain stigmatization towards their children itself. This is harmful, because now there's also no agency for their children, for example, to have communication or to explain to their parents, or this can be a form of like talks or like evaluation about what struggles am I handling as a child. That's why I want to put my parents in elder care, or what do I like as a child, that I want to do this. Therefore, we say that we're so proud to propose.
Um, Before I start with introduction, the first speaker, am Alexander Cliff, and I will start. Um, the government may have argued that in an industrializing society or a developing society, we do not have enough time to take care of the elderly. But is that a failure of other things sourced by especially capitalism, or is that just a normalized prerequisite in industrializing and developing society? Now, allow us to illustrate an example. Even a seriously industrial society like in China, thinks that this dependency on outsourced elderly care is dangerous. Even their government started heavily regulating doing so and started considering outlawing the practice of doing so. Now, the first speaker, will explain briefly, but I will state this here that we, the opposition, feel privileged to radiate for our views in against in favor of no sorry to say that why they resented, why it is normal for them to resent. Now, our first argument that is this will polarize the relation of the elderly and the working age people. Now, of course, when you waiver responsibility to a third party, the sentimental benefits, the emotional connections go away with it. You spend time less with a crucial family members, and automatically this will exacerbate the problem of work-family imbalance especially in industrializing societies, which comes up with its own negatives, which my second speaker will elaborate more. Now, the second argument mentions I've just mentioned sentimental benefits and emotional connections. To clarify, it meant connectivity. It revolves around connectivity with that someone, that elderly, in this case, the elderly. But this does not necessarily mean that sentimental positive values go along and then be transferred to the caretakers. Why so? Because most will just do what is told. They are just told to take care of them, but to never one of the but they will still most will just keep doing the bare minimum, and they will overlook other stuff like mental health, and also most do not understand personally who those elderly are, which is why in many cases a lot of these elderly that have their care outsourced tends to be depressed. And then what will this lead up to? This will lead up to, like in any other work-family imbalance issues, it will sever relations in family and degrade family values. In fact, in places like China, Singapore, and also South Korea, those who initially took outsourced elder care will eventually suffer so badly in relation that the working age men and women will leave their family behind and to rot. For an example, in South Korea, the elderly poverty rate is very high. Our alternative solution is to again solve the actual issue here, that is work-family imbalance, which is why in many places in Indonesia they started to adopt Monday until Thursday work weeks to reduce this imbalance. Now, before I end my speech as a first government, I have to clarify a few things. No, thank you. I have to clarify a few things to rebut the first government. Now, you've just about that. About that, yes, they do have other things in life in them, but you've just proved the point that this exists. This exists. Work-family balance exists, and you're trying to normalize it. And initially, yes, as a working age people, you may care, you may help the elderly, but what you end up doing is just to exacerbate the work-family imbalance, which will make them care less, and then the sentimental value and emotional connection between them diminishes. Now, they stigmatize this for a reason. They don't stigmatize it because of gossips or whatever. They know, even the working age people know that this is wrong, and they resent it for a reason because they are sandwiched in this condition. So to add furthermore, it's a short-term, high-risk form of taking care of. So It's normalized in the sandwich generation, which is why even people that opted to outsource resents it. Thank you for thank you for the opportunity.
When I, as an elder, sees and being outsourced by my children, I perceived it as a love and I perceived it as how he wants me to be taken care of good hands. But with the existence of this stigmatization, it makes me perceive this as me demonizing my children and how he doesn't love me anymore. And it makes even my vulnerability as an elder to begin with is very easily affected through my mental being. Is even worse at the end of the day. We should oppose this stigma. Two responses towards their whole cases here. First, they never even explained like explicitly how the stigmatization looks like on their side. Like how does the parent perceive the stigma? How worse is it affecting their mental being? And they only like repeating and only circulate around saying their emotional connections is really important. But we say that emotional connection still happens at the end of the day. The stigma is exactly the one that worsens this at the end of the day. Therefore, a point of clash regarding the first speaker exchange here, regarding the emotional connections between parents and children. Opposition came and say that it diminished the emotional connections between them because you perceive your children as like demonized and etc. But then we still question, they never explain how is the process, like an analysis of it is being diminished at the end of the day. Like there's no picturization of the parents perceiving this and the picturization of how like the parents are being hurt through their feelings when they see like their children is putting them to be outsourced. Like to begin with, they never even explain the stigmatization looks like is it like saying that you diminish the responsibility or like diminish your love and etc. They never explain that, because it's still a missing line there. But like, okay, even if yes, it will diminish the emotional connections, we say no balance. Because outsourcing is most likely is through a big consideration of the children itself. That's why we say that it's most likely like regarding the capacity to begin with from the children, because they cannot give like the best services towards their elder. Therefore, we say that exactly exactly because this family to begin with have a strong bonds between one another. They have like most rationality to put their parents or like their elder to the outsource at the end of the day. Like they won't easily abandon their parents and they don't want to take care of them anymore. We said that it will never diminish their emotional connections at the end of the day, because like there is because like it is still a form of love because you want them to be taken care of good hands, or like B, there is still like a relationship being maintained between them, right? Like there is like funding towards the outsourcing, or like you still talk or like still have a relationship to have quality time with your parents or your elder and etc. And B, realize it's even worse on your side, because these emotional connections that's to begin with a good thing, it is now making the elder perceive this as like we demonize our children now. We see them and we standardize like being put to an outsource, meaning they don't love you anymore, which is to begin with isn't true at all. And like this is still a form of love at the end of the day. Comparatively, on our side, we say that the emotional connection is even good because they will still have like a rational relationship between one another. They still like maintain a good communications to begin with and still have trust towards one another rather than like demonizing towards one another. And even like parents even like sees this as a good things to begin with, because now they've taken care of like good hands, meaning like in the capacity of like mental or like time spent towards them is even better, and even like physical services and facility is even better, like e.g. on elder foster and etc. To weigh this debate, the importancy is where we see that parents' feelings is more maintained at the end of the day. We maintain this because we don't affect their mental being only because of the stigmatization, and we make like the relationship between them and their strong bond family is still maintained at the end of the day. We want this class. Before moving on to extension, is there any POI? 3, 2, 1. No engagements. Moving to our extension then, regarding worsening the vulnerability of parents. Notice that this elder is to begin with the vulnerable ones panels. In what way? Two things. A, like emotionally, they're the one who is very sensitive to begin with. Like e.g., they can easily be attracted by empathy. They have like empathy towards their children or like towards other people and etc. Or like secondly, like they have is easily affected towards the values in the or like the judgment that are being given towards them from the society or like from their surroundings. Like it spreads around them and etc. They're easily like affected and trust their certain values and etc. And B, like physically, their like in a decrease in capacity panels, like their anti-immune is getting less and etc. Like they're easily catch disease and etc. This is to say that elder is a very vulnerable is in a very vulnerable state to begin with. They shouldn't be affected and they shouldn't be like disturbed by any kind of way from the society or like from their surroundings and etc. What they deserve is to begin with a solace, a peace for them to like enjoy and cherish their old times and like cherish the rest of their lives after like went through many like years of struggles and hurdles and etc. Like they deserve a solace and good rest at the end of the day. But then why the stigma worsen this then? Two reasons. A, like on the scenario where elder hasn't been outsourced yet, they still live with their children and etc. This stigma will affect their mental being, the solace and the peace that they're feeling through like their mind are being affected. How does it look like then? When society is stigmatizing of outsource, like your children is losing love towards you, or like you diminish the responsibility towards your parents, the elder will now have a higher sensitivity by perceiving the actions that are being given to them from their children. How does it look like then? Like even a little moment of your children are giving an unintentional neglection, like because I'm very busy, I cannot take care too much towards my parents and etc. The elder will perceive this as a to process and overthink these certain actions in mind, asking towards themselves like, has he lost his love towards me, or like did I do something wrong towards him? This can affect like their mental being and affect like how they perceive the love towards their children in their relationship. It is even worsened because they overthink and dramatize or dramatize every action that is being done towards their children and affect like their solace and their peace of mind in the vulnerable state at the end of the day. Or like B, on the worst case, like they have this lingering thoughts every day on their mind, like what if I soon will be outsourced? What if I soon will be abandoned by my children? This is worse at the end of the day because as a parent, as an elder that should be like feeling the peace, you are being disturbed and being like bothered by so many stigmatization coming from the society at the end of the day. Even to the extent, like the impact is not only mentally balanced, but like towards the physical being of these parents. Like they have the decreasing interest to like maintain their physical health, or like they're now so desperate to like live, to like not maintain their life anymore and etc. This is exactly like they want to say that the worst case is being depressed. This exactly happens towards them itself, panels. You make like parents overthink everything and like make everything seems as a demonized actions at the end of the day from their children. Second then, scenario in like when you're already outsourced by your children, like to begin with, you should receive this as a way your children still want to manifest their love even if they're in their busy times or like in their productive age, etc. But now, with the existence of the stigma, you only like overthink, you only like sees this as your children diminishing their responsibility towards you, and like they don't love you anymore. Like the vulnerable state that should actually be counter mechanized from the services, from like the fostering or like from your outsourced mechanism is now being countered away and is now being shy away because of the stigmatization to begin with. Meaning on your side, like if outsource still happens and then you came with the stigmatization, you don't make outsource works anymore, and you even be worsened towards your parents and your children at the end of the day. You are very cruel towards the elder. Thank you.
my speech begin in 3, 2, 1. Also, I'm in this as a second speaker of opposition team, and I want to have clarify our first speaker. So our first speaker mentioned this is like another form of work family imbalance, and I think because the work society wants us to work all day, no matter what will happen, and with that, the family will be forgotten, and this is why it creates the stigmatization in Asian society, and mostly the sandwich generation doesn't have time to take care our family, and we need to drop our elderly, our parents to an elder care, and this is and the government doesn't seem to have like the fix the working hours in our society, and we may have just illustrate the process of the implementation, but since the working age people will prioritize their work, and of course in the long term of this prioritize their work. I'm sorry, no, thank you. And I feel they don't feel connected as much day by day, and move to my first argument. Like, we lost our family value. Why? Because we just pay a caretaker to someone who does not belong to our family, and because we only focus on our job, our career, and we forgot about our parents. And if we look back when we're still a child, our parents carrying us, feeding us, and cook for us. And if we pay somebody who took care of our family in elder care, it create a line between a child and a parents, and a parents, it might feel the child does not want to see them, while the child is only focused at the end of day, and it seems like we lose our family values, and mostly uh, this thing problem will come to a sandwich generation. Sorry, thank you. This thing in a sandwich generation. So uh, within this, I'm standing in this podium. I'm totally disagree with this motion, and it broke our family values, and the stigmatization is born because uh, the family and the work hour is unbalanced. So thank you.
From the start, we're already explained to you what our goal is. We want to cater the feeling of the children and the parents that they don't feel as if they are condemned, for example, by the society when they cannot take care of their parents and have to decide to take their parents to the nursing home, and also the parents who are already in the nursing home, for example, and feeling like they are being neglected by their children at the end of the day. This is what we want to cater and say that it's not a way for your children to neglect you, that it's also a way for your children to show love to show love to you at the end of the day. Therefore, you must propose to major reason. One point of clarification before moving moving on to our class, we say that we already say to you that in the very first place, for example, these parents never see their children as an investment. They do not have big expectation for their children to take care of for their parents for their whole life. For example, they also want to see their children have a good life and live their own life at the end of the day. Therefore, we say that this also justified because from the beginning, the parents, for example, raise their children with genuine feeling that they love their children at the end of the day. Therefore, we say it's justified for you, for example, to not give stigmatize to what these children did, for example. But because of the stigmatization, at the end of the day, it's worse because now you think that people that don't have the capability to take care of their parents in their house, for example, is children who neglect their parents, and they're bad children, for example. And also it's worse because now the parents also feel worse and feel sad because of the stigmatization. Two major reasons why they should lose this debate. Firstly, we say that they never explain why the stigmatization is justified on their side. They just throwing claims about practicalities, for example, but they never explain how this stigmatization is justified when it is affecting the children feeling and also the parents feeling. For example, make the parents have lingering thoughts that what if my children will neglect me, for example, in the future. That's why we say the stigmatization is not justified. But even if they explain to you, for example, the stigmatization is justified because this is what make the children considered, for example, have consideration when they want to take their parents to the nursing home. We say that on our side it is also symmetrical, but on our side it's better because now, for example, this is not seen as something bad. It's not when you want to talk about taking your parents to the nursing home, for example, it's not seen as something that is taboo, for example. Therefore, it will be more likely on our side for these children, for example, to also include their parents in this discussion at the end of the day. But then but then the second reason, all their case is talking about work-life balance, for example. We say that this is better on our side because now, for example, you are so busy with your work, for example, you do not have time with your parents. Now you can take your parents to the nursing home, or you can call the nurse, for example, in your house and take care of your parents, for example. Take care of your parents because this is what the parents need. But it is better for the children because now you can balance your work life, for example, and your parents will still be taken care of good, for example. But on their side, this the work life balance will be worse because now you have to balance your work life and taking care of your parents, and at the end of the day you don't maximize the way you take care of your parents, for example, the way you take care of the parents. Therefore, we say it's better on our side about taking care of the parents and the work-life balance of the children. But then let's see. If on our side, for example, the worst case is people are going to be more like to just take their parents to the nursing home, for example. They're just straight away taking their parents to the nursing home to respond for this. Firstly, we say that no. We say that these children, for example, also go through a long consideration in taking their parents to the nursing home. Why? Because they still have lingering feeling for their parents, for example, that have taken care of them, for example, for years. Therefore, we say that it's not very likely for these children to straight away taking their parents to the nursing home, for example. But on our side, it is better because because when you decided that you don't have the capabilities to take care of your to take care of your parents, and you must take your parents to the nursing home, for example, this won't seen as something bad, and the parents, for example, won't feel as if they are being neglected. Even if yes, for example, you just straight away to take care your parents to nursing home, for example, without consideration, we say it is still better because it's not because it's not stigmatized on our side by the society that it is a way for your child to neglect you. Therefore, the parents, for example, won't feel too sad, won't feel depressed, for example, because they feel like their children are neglecting them. 2 point of clash on our side. Firstly, about emotional connection between the parents and the children. They say the emotional connection won't happen on our side when we do not take care of our children on our own. To respond for this, firstly, we say no. We say that the children still can visit their parents, for example, in the nursery home, home, for example. It doesn't mean that we totally neglect our parents. This is also a form of love that the children can give, for example, on their own capacity at the end of the day. Therefore, we say that it's not justified for you to condemn these children at the end of the day. But we also say that it works on their side, because now the relationship is likely to be ruined. Why? Because the parents think that their children are neglect them, for example, or how the parents think that their children is not pay their responsibility in taking care of them, for example. Therefore, on their side, the emotional connection will be ruined at the end of the day. If, for example, there are possibility that the children have to take their parents to the nursing home, on their side, the relationship will be ruined. Comparatively, on our side, is better, because now even if you want to talk about taking your parents to the nursing home, for example, you can include your parents in the discussion. You talk about how they feel, for example, if you take them to the nursing home, because now it don't seen as something bad, and therefore emotional connection will be better on our side. Therefore, we say, let's weigh this clash. We say on our side we better because we cater the emotional connection better. For example, the emotional feeling of the parents, of their parents, for example, which is the vulnerable actor, for example, the vulnerable actor at the end of the day, that they feel like they are being neglected of their children. Therefore, we say that on our side we protect the most vulnerable actor, which is the parents that feel like they are being neglected by their children. But then second clash about judgment, we say that the judgment is going to be more harmful on their side. On their side, for example, because now everyone, for example, talk about how these children are bad, and it also worse in the Asian society, for example. But we say that this is a normal thing for you, for example, for leaving your parents when you're older, because for example in America you are allowed to leave your house when you are 18, for example. Therefore, we say that this is a normal thing and should not being judged by the society. Therefore, we say we win. Thank you.
There are some points of clarification. Firstly, is the reason why we define this motion that the stigmatizations of outsourcing elder care in Asian sources is because the justifications of the elders and the connection is when we oppose this imagine the connection between the elders and their child would be in Venice. Imagine if because their child is sending this elder to some take care, and do you think that the connection between the child and the parents would be okay? The abusiveness that their child got is one of the reasons of the losses that will gain, a loss of its family values, especially in the country of the industrialism. There will be a lot of harmless impact that will be gained if we're opposing this stigmatization. Stigmatization itself doesn't always define the bad connotation. It could be only the assumptions of the public have. Indeed, we just want to protect the status quo by supporting the stigmatizations of outsourcing elder care in Asian societies. In developing and developed country, the workforce curve in highly didn't comparable with the time that they could spend with their own families, which is why it's related with the capitalism city that had a working hour more than enough, which means the thing we want to protect right here is the connection between families, because we all know the relationships is crucial, right? That is why we want to defend. Secondly, is the importance of balance other in work nor the family's time is really no thank you, because imagine in case your parents got sick and no one take care of them because their child is busy having work and cannot give the prioritism to their family as well, the regressions always come late. So the worst scenario if that happen, the balance with work and family shouldn't be equal. The prioritizing the family that we have should be the number one that try to protect. We didn't say that by working it is unnecessary thing to do. We should only take taking care about the parents. But what we trying to convey to you is the relationship between the elders right now and their own child is highly hard to find, especially in developing and developed country. All the time using without remembering the existence of their most loved ones. Why we should like to protect the relationship with this connection. Some reason, like firstly, we'll prove to you by concept. We will prove to you like by concept the relationship between these two elders and their families. It will create a family values that could be better in their relationship and the connections realized in the status quo when they're talking about in Indonesia. Their generation called as the sandwich generation is one of the reasons the connection between the elders and their child is actually loose. For example, it actually just like their rights to take care about their own parents, because if not, then who will do the something that could not thank you and be leading to a misunderstanding is when the child think that their parents think that they could do to their parents is only giving them money without knowing that the fact that these elders still need the connection emotion with their child, the affection needed by elders, actually one of the reasons we want to protect, because it will be one of the reasons how the elders took that their child is still care about them. The main interest in here is actually when you got older, the attention that you need is getting bigger, because simply it's one of the way to show the emotionally love, the emotionally emotion have between this elder's child, this elder, and the stigmatization in question is isn't all about the bad things that exist, because the gossipers that they done in environmental where they're living. Let's start from the child condition. Here there's a lot of type of child who will this to to this the abandoned teenagers, because they do and care about their parent as well. To maintain, they don't care about their parent as well, and to maintain this connection, the only things that the child can do because to have a is to have a big attention towards uh, and in other words, the judgments from the others still can be the advice itself to the elders, and also the child to rebuild their relationship as well. And even if the judgment from the others could be bad, sometimes the main thing right here is if only the relationship between the child and the parents is good from the start, the chemistry from the start is fine, then these elders won't be overthinking about it, and instead they still will trust their child decisions. So the main point right here, we should know first what kind of stigmatization that we're talking about. While some in other words, stigmatization doesn't only leading to bad things, right? The stigmatization between the relationship between the elders and child as well in Asian society as well. We already said about the point that to rebuild the relationship. Well, we're talking about the things that the child should do when they got elders. Most of the answer is about the right things to do as a child is taking care about their parents' rights, but sometimes not thank you. It's leading to misunderstanding that the child is only using that the child is only using as an investment from their parents, when exactly it's actually not. The stigmatization that could be one of the factors that could be used as a guide between the two who involved can actually make the relationship getting better. And even if there's a stigmatization uh, that isn't good, that isn't sometimes a good, but it still can be used as to reboot the relationship as well. Therefore, the connection between these to solve this problem is doing a communication, because the problem right here is some relationship between the child and the elders is because miscommunication. That's why we support to oppose. Thank you.
Um, Panelists, jury and adjudicators. They gave us just mere examples of this stigmatization, but didn't elaborate further why this is normalized and prevalent in the working age, especially in the working age. The same people gossiping how this is bad may have been implicated by the same issue itself, um, by the same by the same sad reality. They are just as sandwich. It's like how even government officials make fun of the government when they talk to their friends, because the reality is a fact. Um, because the reality is a fact. Um, Chinese workers left their elderlies behind and stopped sending money later on. And in South Korea, poverty rates within elderly skyrockets, even when their children have high average income. Now, now it's the parent to child equivalent of dad leaving to get milk. There's a reason why he's not coming back, and that reasoning has not been elaborated further. The point is, we're trying to give, before I go on, they mostly focus on family reputation with no backup to data and statistics, so whatsoever, and how they demonize the alternative because that automatically make us the working the working age people helicopter kids. The point is we try to give more universal examples that started to become the reality in Indonesia as well. And their examples are not sufficient and extremely specific. For example, the example of other people gossiping about the family and how it ruins the reputation of the family. Where's the data proving that stigmatization happens through other people gossiping and make the whole family reputation go shatters? These are mere hypotheses that are not backed up by facts, proven by data, and the practice, and they have not elaborated further how the practice is detrimental. Therefore, is why is resented by most parts of society. Thank you.
Elders who are being hurt day by day and keep overthinking regarding their child still loves them or not is what the world that has been created by the team opposition. They never explain and never consider regarding the feelings of these elders to begin with and how the children is now even like still care over towards their parents or their elders at the end of the day. Three reasons I'm going to bring in my reply speech. First, regarding their whole cases. Notice, panels, that their whole cases is like established upon among a shaky framing to begin with. Like A, they never explain how the stigmatization looks like, either like how the parents abandon, perceiving like they are being abandoned, or like how the parents are blaming their children, etc. It is only being provided by our team to begin with. And B, they never even explain like the characteristic of the elders, like feelings and like vulnerability to begin with. They never like even mention anything about the vulnerability of the elder at the end of the day, and it's being provided by our team at the end of the day. They never have established any framing at all. The only case that they keep repeating and circulating is only the work-family balance. Well, we still have to respond towards this at the end of the day. Like A, like exactly isn't when for actors slash the victim of the stigmatization, e.g. like the children that has this capacity to keep taking care of their parents, it is like the outsource is their last resort to begin with. Like it is the only way for them to still be responsible towards their parents by also maintaining their work family balance. Like e.g., let's give a scenario like a entire day of work where you have no more energy to feed, to bath your parents, you come home and you see your parents is already like full surfaced and you are already fat and it's already like taking a bath. Now you can freely like deep talk with them before sleep and like do other quality times on our side, because we think that this is the outsource that we don't stigmatize and still justified at the end of the day. But rather on your side, because like because like you don't have any choices for children to outsource their parents and like force themselves to still be responsible. What happened then is looks like how like you have no more energy to take care of your parents essential needs. When you come home as a children, you come home and left your parents abandoned because the tiredness that you can overcome anymore. This is exactly what makes your side is actually even worse towards the parents and the children at the end of the day. But then B, even on your worst case, or even on our worst case, like there is a children that is still capable to take care of their parents, but they have less willingness to be fully responsible. We say this is still okay, panels. Why then? It is A, because this is still a manifestation of responsibilities to begin with, right? They still like have to fund towards their parents' services. They still have times to like invest every week to go like to the nursing home and etc. to still like maintain the relationship. And B, meaning that there is still a maintenance towards the relationship between one another of this of parents and children at the end of the day. Therefore, we think that we want this because not only we create a established framing regarding the stigma and like the feelings and like the characterization of parents, but like we provide a more engagement towards their case, like even on our worst case of like children that have less interest, it is still okay at the end of the day, and your stigma is the one that worsening. Secondly, is that they have a circulating argument. It is only regarding relationship and connections, but two responses like A, how does it looks like, how will they diminish and abandon relationship is never explained by them, and B, like the matrix of like what's the tipping point, the relationship is gone now, what's the tipping point of like the child isn't love, doesn't love their parents anymore, it's left unexplained in their side. We say that at the end of the day, their arguments is like still have many loopholes to be filled and still have many like missing arguments or like likelihood to be explained, and we still question it. Thirdly is that we want this because A, we prove the feelings of the elders and the children and we consider about them. We care towards them because we say that the stigmatization is exactly what worsened it. And B, we engage towards the stigma at the end of the day, even if it is towards the stigma that they say that you make the parents and children lose relationship, but we still at the end of the day they still can love each other and maintains the relationship. For a better parents and children relationship, vote for team proposition.